We begin to the sixth Perek of the Masechta Nedarim, Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph at the Mishnah at the beginning of the Yamud. So this Mishnah is going to discuss the language that a person uses in a neder, and based on exactly the language that he said, we'll understand what is included in the neder and what's not included. Person says he makes a neder not to have anah from anything which is mevushal, something which was cooked. That's the expression mivushal. Mivushal means the action of cooking it. So mutter b'tzli, so he's still allowed to eat something which was roasted, ubishaluk, and something which is shaluk. There's a machlokes in the Rishonim what shaluk means. Some say shaluk means something which is very, very well cooked, which is not included in regular cooking. And the Ran actually says the opposite, that if it was very well cooked, it is included in the expression of cooking. But it means shaluk means something which is extremely lightly cooked. It's not properly cooked. Omar, however, if the lashon in his neder was different, kainam tafshil she'eni tayim. His neder is the object. He's referring to the object itself, the cooked food. I will not taste. So before mevushal refers to the act of going and cooking it. So that's much more specific. But when you say tafshil, so you really mean something that was raw and you cooked it and now it's fit for eating. So that includes more. So aser b'maise kedere rach. You will not be allowed to eat any maise kedere, anything that's cooked in a pot which is soft or more liquidy. And the reason is, as the Gemara will explain, because this lashon, at least in the times of the Gemara, refers specifically to something that a person eats together with bread. When he has a meal, so he has the bread, then together with the bread, he eats something that's cooked to go along with it. So that's rach, that's something which is soft. Okay? Umutter ba'ava, and he will be allowed to eat something which is cooked, which is more thicker. Like for example, let's say a person has a thick oatmeal or a thick porridge. It's not something that you eat together with bread. So that will be allowed. Umutter bebeitze turmutter. He'll be allowed to eat this egg, which is called beitze turmutter. The Gemara will explain what this is. This is an egg which is cooked many, many times, and it's not eaten together with bread. That's the point there. Ubedelas haramutza. And a dalas, which is a squash, remutza, a certain kind of a squash, which the Gemara will also explain, that's not eaten together with bread. A gourd, okay, or if you want to, it's a gourd, okay. The third lashon of a neder is hanoidem maise kedera. Person makes a neder that he's not going to eat maise kedera, something which is prepared in a pot. So here he's not using the lashon of tafshil, but he's using the lashon of maise kedera. So what does this mean? Ein asa ela mi maise resachta. So then he's only going to be also from something that's boiled in a pot. And the Ran here gives a bunch of different examples of things that are boiled in a pot, which is, for example, the different grits from all kinds of grains that a person boils and makes out of it, like an oatmeal or farina or porridges, all these, that's what this refers to. A person says his neder is from things that are going down or being placed into a pot, and so he doesn't even use the term maise kedera. Maise kedera specifically refers to things that are being boiled in the pot, but hayored kedera, heated up in the pot, she'eni tayin, that he won't taste from it. So asa b'chol amizbashlim kedera. So then he won't be allowed to eat anything that's cooked in a pot, whether it's soft, whether it's thicker, whether it's eaten with bread, whether it's not eaten with bread. So the limitations that applies to the other expressions that we mentioned before doesn't apply when he uses this more broader term, yored l'kdeir, anything that goes into the pot.
So if something that goes into a pot and I don't put it into the pot, it goes to this neder, but right now I bake it now. I could use it. So according to what the Gemara said before, the Mishnah here said, when he says the term tafshil, so it said it has to be something which is soft, not something which is thick, because it has to be something which you eat together with bread. But it could be something which is roasted or baked as well. But usually something which is roasted or baked is not going to be it's not going to be soft. But as long as it's something which is going to be eaten in a meal together with bread, so then it's going to be aser. That's in that lashon. But in the lashon of maise kedera, no, it will not include something which is baked, and so on, because that's something that's not in the pot. But it means the ingredients.
No, I don't know if it says ingredients. No, why? Still, it has to be something in a pot, but it doesn't matter if it's soft or if it's liquidy or if it's thicker. So Gemara brings a braise of a Tana that argues with what it said in the Mishnah. Tanya and a braise we learned. Rabbi Yeshia oiser. Rabbi Yeshia says, going back to the first case of the Mishnah, he said mevushal. So mevushal means specifically the act of cooking, which excludes roasting or anything that's not cooking. But Rabbi Yeshua says no, it's going to be usher to eat even if it was roasted as well. And he says, even though I don't have a proof that the term cooking includes also roasting, but there is a zeichel, you can bring at least somewhat of a proof from the pasuk where it says by the Korban Pesach sheinema vayevashlu ha-Pesach be'eish kamishpat. They cooked the Pesach as the halacha is, and what's the halacha by the Pesach? It's not actually cooked; it's actually roasted, and the pasuk refers to the roasting as cooking. Says the Gemara, shall we say, that the machlokes here between Rabbi Yeshi and the Tana of the Mishnah is the following machlokes. The Rabbi Yeshi is savar halecha chalosh teire. Rabbi Yeshi says, anytime you want to understand what a person meant in his neder, follow the language that Teire uses. And that's how we would determine what he meant. But the Tana Dilan savar, the Tana of our Mishnah says, no, the Nedarim, halecha chalosh b'nei adam. By a neder, it doesn't matter how things are termed in the Torah. What matters is the lashon, the way people speak, and that will tell you what a person was really thinking when he made the neder. So over here as well, do we take the raya from the lashon of the pasuk vayavashlu or not? So the Gemara answers, loy. That's not their argument. The kulam b'nedarim alecha chaloshin b'nei adam. Everybody agrees by nedarim. You follow what a person was, the lashon of people, the way they speak. That determines what a person is thinking. But mar ki yasrei or mar ki yasrei. The Tana of the Mishnah is saying, according to the minig in his place, that things that are cooked and things that are roasted were not referred to together. Or mar ki yasrei, and Rabbi Yeshua in his place, even things that were roasted were referred to as something which is cooked. Basa the Tana dilon letzli karilei tzli, lemuvushal karilei mevushal. Roasted is roasted and cooked is cooked. Basa the Rabbi Yeshua in the place of Rabbi Yeshua, afil tzli karim mevushal. Something that was roasted was also referred to as something which was cooked. Frek the Gemara, how could you say this is the pshat in the Rabbi Yeshua? The Rabbi Yeshua agrees that you follow the way people speak, but v'hakra nasivla. He brings a pasuk to prove his point. So you see that he is basing the fact that tzli is called mevushal on the pasuk. And says the Gemara, asmach de balma. He brought that pasuk, but that's just to rely that you find such an idea in the pasuk. If you would not find such an idea in the pasuk at all, then if there's a minig in a place that people use an expression of something that has no connection to it, so then not always you follow lashon b'nei adam. If it's something which is mamish ridiculous, that people really it's not understood in the actual words, you can't follow lashon b'nei adam ad kedei kach. But if you find in the lashon of the pasuk vayevashlu regarding tzli, so therefore we can rely on that and say that if in a place the minig is that they include roasting and bishul, so it's aser as well. The next Mishnah then said kainim tafshel. So what does tafshel mean? Only something which is soft, not something which is thick. I think what asks on this. Why does it make a difference if it's soft or if it's thick? He says, I will not eat something which was cooked in the pot, so it should include anything, thick or soft. Abai answers, Hi Tana, what this Tana is telling you is, Kolmidi, the misachal beirifte, whatever is eaten together with bread, tafshel karile. That's what's called a tafshel. A tafshel is that cooked food that comes along within a suda with bread. Something which is thick, like a thick oatmeal, you don't eat that together with bread, so therefore that's not called a tafshel. V'hatanya, and we can see this from what we learned in the Braise. Hanoidim in a tafshel. The Braise says you made a neder not to eat a tafshel. Also b'chol mini tafshel. You may not eat any kinds of tafshel. Cook things that are cooked in the pot. V'asa b'tzli. You also asked to eat something which is roasted, because here it didn't say hamivushel, which means the act of cooking, but tafshel, so that it does include tzli. Ubishaluk, which is either well cooked or very lightly cooked. Ubimevushel, things that you cooked in the pot. And v'asa b'hitriyos rakos, and you're also not allowed to eat hitriyos rakos, which are small gourds or small squashes. Sha'chaylin eichlen behem piton. People that are sick, so they eat these hitriyos, these small squashes, together with their bread. So what do you see over here? The Braise concludes and says, Eichlen ben piton, that the sick people eat it together with bread, even though usually people don't necessarily eat these hitriyos together with bread, but since sick people eat it together with bread, so it's considered to be a cooked food that goes along with bread. So you see in this Braise that the lashon of tafshel refers to cooked food that's eaten in a meal with bread. But the Gemara now asks on a side point that was brought up here in this Braise. What did it say here? These hitriyos, which is the squash, is good for sick people. And is this true? Rabbi Yirmiyah, when he was sick, a doctor came to his house to heal him. he saw gourds or squash that was in his house. Shaf gave enough. He left them and he went out of the house. Omar, he said, Malach Maisa Isle Ledain Bebeisa. This individual has the Malach Hamavis in his house. In other words, it was referring to this squash, these gourds, that it's something which is so harmful for a person to eat, and for sure a person that's not well. Fa'ana La'ase, and I should go in to heal him. Allah saw Yaseh to heal him. So we see here that eating these squashes is actually not good for a person that's sick. How does the Braisa say that these hitrias, rakis, these small squashes, the people that are sick eat them? So the Gemara gives a few answers to this. Like kashi, it's not a question. Ha berakichi, if it's soft, so then it's good for a person to eat with bread when he's sick. Ha bashuni, when they're hard, it's not good to eat. Rava Barula says, ha bekra gufe, there is the squash, the itself, and the external part of it. There's inside. There's what's inside of it, which is actually the gavei dekra. The inside of the squash is beneficial. Rav Yehuda said, lulive dekra, the inside of this squash, besilka, together with beets, or lulive de kitna, the inside of flax, bekutcha, together with kutcha, which is this kind of sauce, a milky sauce that they used to make in Bavel. So these things are good to eat. And he adds, don't tell the Amaratzim about this inside of the flax that's good, that's beneficial to eat, because these Amaratzim may then go and grab away flax and steal it and take it for themselves. Rava said, Man chaylin Rabbanon. When it says over here, the sick people, that for them, it's good to eat the chaylin that we're speaking about before. Who's the chaylin that we're talking about? We're talking about the Rabbanon, the ones that learn Torah. So for them, because they're learning Torah day and night, so they become sick. Okay, so that's the one that it said before, that it's beneficial for them to eat from these from the gourds or the squashes. We're not talking about stam sick people. We're talking specifically about the Rabbanon that are sick. Rabbi Taimei, they're shvach. They're weak, right? People that are weak because of the Torah that they learn all the time. Rabbi Taimei, and this is something that Rava said in another place. The Omar Rava said, "Keman matzlinon al ketziri v'al merei." Rava was speaking about this, that every day of the year we always daven for people that are ketziri and people that are merei. What is ketziri and merei? So it's two different things. Ketziri is people that are really sick. Miri means people that are weak. And that is because of their learning Torah all day, they become weak. So now what was Rava talking about when he said this? Okay, so he says, Keman ka Rabbi Yosi, we daven like Rabbi Yosi. This is a Gemara we learned in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara there brings the machlokes between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yosi. Rabbanan say that a person is judged once a year, Rosh Hashanah. And from Rosh Hashanah it's established everything will have the entire year. So therefore the Gemara there says, according to Rabbanan, there's no reason to daven during the year if a person is not well, because everything was already established in Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yosi, however, says that you can daven every day of the year because the person is being judged. Adam nidim b'chol yain. And so that's what Rava was saying. Rava was saying that we daven for people that are sick and people that are weak. It's according to Rabbi Yosi. So mid'ama ktsiri umiri, the fact that Rava, when he spoke about this, he used two different expressions, ktsiri and miri, shma mina. So we see from this ktsiri is ktsiri mamish. Ktsiri means people that are actually sick. And the Rane says the word ktsiri means meloshin kotzer, that their life is shortened and the whole quality of their life as well is shortened. People that are sick. Miri is rabbanon. Miri means people that are weak, referring to people that learn Torah. Okay, just as a side note to explain what it says here regarding this not to daven every day, according to the opinion of the Rabbanon. So the Gemara there in Rosh Hashanah actually has an additional discussion about it. In a few places the Gemara speaks about it. And the Gemara there says that even according to the Rabbanon, a person could daven every day, because a person that screams out to the Eibishter, as if it's a tzaik, if you really daven properly, then the Eibishter will always answer your tefillas, even though a person was already judged in the beginning of the year on Rosh Hashanah. Going back to what it said in the Mishnah, umutter ba'ava, that it's mutter for a person to eat the thick foods, because it's not eaten together with bread, so it's not part of the lashon of tafshil that he said in his neder. Says the Gemara masnisen de loike bavloi. What it says in our Mishnah is not like the custom of the people in Bavel. Dam Rab Zeire, because Rab Zeire said about the people in Bavel, bavloi tipshoi, the bavloim are fools, the achli lachma belachma. They eat bread together with bread. What does it mean they eat bread together with bread? They would eat bread together with the bread. They would eat a thick oatmeal. Usually, even though it doesn't usually go together, it's like the bread is from the grain, and this also is grain, and that's cooked and made thick, similar to bread. But they would eat bread together with bread. So therefore, in our Mishnah that it says it was thick, is not eaten together with bread, is not like the minig of the Bavlian. Rav Chisda said, the mashal lahoyin lahala nagdani. A person that will ask these nagdani de hutzel. What does nagdani de hutzel mean? So one pshat, according to the Gerson argument, nagdani means those people that are very particular in hutzel. There's another pshat that it doesn't say nakdani, but it says nakrani. Nakrani means people that are very clean in hutzel. Hadain daisa. So this daisa, this porridge that we're talking about over here, that they eat in Bavel, and they eat it together with bread. Heichan ma'ila lemechle. What's the best way to eat it together with bread? The chiti, balachma the chiti, the porridge that's made from the grits of wheat to eat together with bread that's made from wheat, or udesare balachma desari, and the porridge that's made from barley to eat it together with bread that's made from barley. Or maybe that you do it in the reverse. The chiti b'desari or desari b'dechiti. If you're making a porridge from wheat, so then you eat it together with bread that's made from barley, and if you're making the porridge from barley, so you eat it together with porridge that's made from wheat. So what was their minute? What was the best way to eat this? Okay. Rave achle b'chasisi. Rave, so he would eat the bread together with chasisi, which is made from kernels of wheat that was roasted and then made into a flour. It's a different type of a porridge. That's how Rave would eat his bread together with this type of porridge. Rabbi Baravone ashkechel Ravone the kaachol daise betz baase. Rabbi Baravone sees his father, it seems like, right? Ravone, that he's eating the daise with his fingers. Amalei, so he says to his father, Amai kaachol mar biyade. So why are you eating with your hands, not with a spoon like a mensch? Amalei hachi amar Rav. This is what Rav said. Daise betz baasa basim. When you eat this porridge with your fingers, it has a better taste. The cholde came betartin. If you eat with one finger, it has a good taste. For sure, if you eat with two fingers, it has an even better taste. The cholde came betlas. If you eat with three fingers, it has an even better taste. So he wants to eat it to get the full taste of the food. Interesting. Amalei Rav l'chiyah berei. Rav said to his son Chiyah, v'chein amalei Rav Huna l'Rabbe berei. And Rav Huna said to his son Rabbe, Mizamnu lach l'mechel daisa. If you're being invited to eat porridge, daisa, different kinds of these cereals. So at parsa, you should go even for a parsa to join and to eat. L'mechel bisra. If you're being the tura, if you're being invited to eat the meat from an ox, atlosa parsa. So you should travel even 3 parsa to go and eat this meat of the ox. Amalei Rav l'chiyah berei. Rav said to his son Chiyah, v'chein amalei Rav Huna l'Rabbe berei. Rav Huna said to Rabbe his son. It means the benefit of these foods. How far should you be ready to go to get the benefit of these foods? But I'm sure, like all Gemaras of Agadata, this has ruchni ziginyanim. If someone invites you to get this dar, we learned today in the Maimach Chassidus this morning. We're learning about the lechem of Torah, the yayin of Torah, there's the basar of Torah. It's all also ruchni zigin things. Kol midoam loitifloit kamei rabach. If you're eating food and there's saliva in your mouth, so do not spit out any of the saliva in front of your teacher. It's not derech eretz. Lebar min kra v'daisa. Besides the saliva that forms in your mouth after you eat kra, which is this gourd or squash, or daisa, these various different porridges that you eat. Shehein daimin lepsilta shel avar. Because this is like a wick of lead that's in your mouth that if you swallow it, it's dangerous for you. And this lashon of psilta shel avar is actually taken from what's used when you give someone the chiyuv of misa sreifa, so he would swallow a very hot wick of lead. So this is something you're not allowed to swallow. It's dangerous for you, so this you're going to have to spit out even if you're in front of your teacher. And even if you're in front of the king Shvar, you're going to have to spit this out as well because it's dangerous. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda were eating together from the same dish. They were eating a porridge from the same dish. One of them was eating this porridge with his fingers, and another one was eating with a hutzah. How do they translate hutzah there?
Piece of bark.
A piece of bark. He didn't have a proper spoon, so he was using a piece from the bark of a tree to eat with it. So the one that was eating with the bark of the tree said to the one that was eating with his fingers, until when are you going to give me to eat from the dirt of your fingers? Your fingers, the fingernails, has dirt in it, so you're sticking your fingers into the dish here, and I'm going to have to eat from this, so you're putting your dirt in here. and the other one was eating with this bark from the tree. So the one that was eating with this bark said to the one that's eating with his fingers, no, sorry, I went up a line. Am I good?
No, you went up.
Okay, sorry. The one that was eating with his fingers said to the one that was eating with the bark of the tree, you're taking this bark and you're putting it into the food, putting it into your mouth, and then putting it right back into the food. So until when are you going to give me to eat from your spit, from your mouth? It's going back into the dish. Apparently, the one that eats with his fingers was waiting until he didn't put his fingers into his mouth, or maybe he waited until it was dried off from his spit before he put it back into the food. But the other one would put the bark into his mouth, and then the spit would go right back into the food. Okay, this is the story of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. As we'll see here in the continuation of the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda was very, very poor. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon Aisel Kamayu Blusfin, or others are good as Blufsin. They brought in front of them a type of figs, which is not a regular figs and it's not so good to eat. So Rabbi Yehuda achal, Rabbi Yehuda ate them. Rabbi Shimon lo yachal. Rabbi Shimon did not eat these figs. Amal Rabbi Yehuda, so Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbi Shimon, "My time achal mar. Why aren't you eating from these figs?" Amal Rabbi Shimon, because Elu ein yitzim ibnei mayim kolikah. You eat these figs, it remains there in your intestines, in your stomach. It remains. It doesn't go out. It doesn't go through the system well. Amalei Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda says, on the contrary, that's why I'm eating them. Kolshken shenismach aleim l'machas. I could eat them today, and I have them in my body, and it still gives me. I'm still full with it even tomorrow. Like I said, we'll see soon. Rabbi Yehuda was very poor, so I wanted to eat these foods that remains in his body longer. Rabbi Yehuda Yosef kamed Rab Tarfon. He was sitting in front of Rab Tarfon. Amalei Rab Tarfon. Rab Tarfon said to him, Hayoim panecha tzuhuven. Your face today is shining. Why is your face shining? Amalei, so he says to him, Emesh yotzu avadecha l'sada. Yesterday your servants went out into the field, ve'yiviu lanu trodin, and they brought us trodin, which are beets, v'achalnu b'lei melach, and we ate them. We had what to eat, even without salt, but we had what to eat. V'machalnu b'melach, if you would eat them with salt, kol shken shay panei netzuvim. Most definitely our face would shine even more. So he answered Rab Tarfon. So the Mefarshim say, you'll see in continuation of the Gemara that there's others that asked Rabbi Yehuda about his shining face, and really the reason his face was shining was from the Torah that he learned. That's the real reason. So when he gave this answer to Rab Tarfon, he didn't really give him the right answer. He was an onof, so he gave him this answer. But really, as we'll see, Rabbi Yehuda was very poor, so therefore he said this. There was this matronisa, this prominent woman, she's a noble woman that said to Rabbi Yehuda, are you paskening halachas while you are intoxicated? She saw his face was shining, mamish like red, like someone that drank wine and is intoxicated. She wanted to know what's going on. Amar Allah, so he answered her, Heimnusa, I can swear that biyada dahi itze, in your life, in your hand, the hands of this woman, of this noble woman, itaimna, when do I drink wine? Ele kiddush avdalta, only for kiddush and avdallah, and v'arba kosi de pischa, and only for the dal kaisis for Pesach. And not only that, v'chagrani tzidi min ha-Pesach adat tzeres. After drinking the dal kaisis, I have to have this special belt to hold my body up from Pesach all the way till Shavuos. The Gemara brings this in Masechet Pesachim about Rabbi Yehuda. To what extent a person should push himself to drink the dal kaisis, even if you have this kind of a pain. The Alter Rebbe brings it in Shulchan Aruch as well. So then, why is it that his face is shining? Ella. So the Gemara says, or others say that actually Rabbi Yehuda himself said this. Chachmas Adam Tor Panav. It's the wisdom of the Torah that's on his face that you see shining. He learned Torah. It's such a geschmack that you pashut saw his face was red and shining from his learning Torah. Third story the Gemara says about the shining face of Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei Ahud Tzedeki Rabbi Yehuda. There was this Tzedeki that said to Rabbi Yehuda, Panecha Daimin, your face is shining, and it's compared to either Ikem Malvei Ribis, like these people that lend money on interest, Ikem Megadle Chazirin, or people that are breeding pigs. These two examples, pig farmers, these are examples of people that earn money very easily, and therefore their face is always shining. So this tzedeki, he saw Rabbi Yehuda's face shining, so he knows what he does. So he was thinking that Rabbi Yehuda, he sees in Rabbi Yehuda what he sees in himself. So he says, this is what it is, this is what you do, that's why your face is shining and happy. Amalei, so he answered him, B'Yehudoi, I could swear in the name of the Yidden, that he says, Lashon of Ashua, Tarvayu Asirin. Sorry, a second, am I making a mistake? Is Yehudoi a Lashon of Ashua? Maybe not. B'Yehudai tarvayu asirin. For Yidden, both of these things that you mentioned here, whether interest or whether the chazerim, they're aser. So this is not what it is. Ella, why is my face shining? Esrim varba beisa kisei ismim beisa adbei medrasha. When I go from my house to the shul, so there are 24 beisa kiseis, there's lavatories on the way where I could stop off to relieve myself. And v'chol shah v'shah ani nichnas l'chol echad v'echad. And I always enter, every time on the way, I enter to relieve myself, and therefore I never have any issues. So my face is shining. So again, like I mentioned before, the Mefarshim say this is not the real reason why his face was shining. He just gave this silly answer to this tzedeki, but the real reason is what the Gemara said before, Chachmas Adam Tar Panov. The Gemara brings another story here about Rabbi Yehuda. He was so poor. Rabbi Yehuda kad asla bei medrasha. When Rabbi Yehuda came to the Beis Medrash, shakal gulfa al kasvei. So he carried with him this barrel on his shoulder. Omar, he said, great is work that it gives honor to the one that works. Personally, so even though a person like him, he was such a great Tana, and he was carrying his own chair, so to speak, to come with him to the Beis Medrash to be able to sit down, work gives honor to the person that works. Rab Shimon shakal tzan al kasvei. Similar, Rab Shimon took a basket on his shoulders. He brought it to sit down. Omar, great is work that gives honor to the one that does this work. The Bisu de Rabbi Yehuda, the wife of Rabbi Yehuda, Nafkes, she went out, Naktes Amra, she got Amra, which is flax, wool, wool, correct, of the Glime de Hotfi. And she made some kind of a cloak, some kind of a garment with this. It's the Hotfi means something which is thicker, something which is a cloak, a thicker cloak that she made with this. Kadnafkes l'shuke mechas yebei. When she would go out into the marketplace, she would cover herself with it. When Rabbi Yehuda would go out to daven, he would use the same cloak and cover himself with it. When he covered himself with this, so this was something that was so special for him that have him mevarich, he made a bracha, baruch shatani meil. He thanked the Eibishter that gave him this thick coat, even though it wasn't such a special cloak, but because Rabbi Yehuda was so poor, the fact that he had this, so he made a special bracha. I don't know if it means he made a bracha b'shem or malchus, but he thanked the Eibishter for the special coat that he had. The Mefarshim also say another chiddush you see from our Gemara is, even though usually there's an issur of leisilbash for a man to use a woman's cloak, but nevertheless, apparently this was a kind of cloak that they were so poor, it wasn't designated not for a man, not for a woman, and the wife and the husband, Rabbi Yehuda and his wife, they shared the same cloak. Yeah, something valuable, okay. Zimna Chada one time, Gazer Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, Tanise. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel was Geyser. He decreed that everyone should come and fast and come to daven. So Rabbi Yehuda lo yasal lebeit Tanise. Rabbi Yehuda didn't show up to this davening by the fast. Amrin lei. So they said to Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, you know why Rabbi Yehuda is not coming? Lo islei kisuya. He doesn't have any clothing to properly cover himself to come to shul. So shada le glima. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel sent people to bring him a cloak to wear to come. V'loi kibble. He didn't want to accept it. You want to take anything from anyone. What happened? Dalit sifse. Rabbi Yehuda was sitting there in his house. He picked up a mat that was there on the ground, and v'amalei l'shluche, and he said to those shluchim that came to give him this cloak to come to shul, chazi mai ikke. Look what there's here. When they picked up this cloak, there was a bunch of gold coins that was there. And he said, look, even though all these coins are here, miu le'nicheli de ishani ma'ad badein alma. But nevertheless, I don't want to have anah from anything in this world. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel sent me this cloak. I'm poor, but I don't want to take it. I don't want to have anything anah from this world. That was Rabbi Yehuda. It's interesting that Rebbe brings in one place that even though we find over here that Rabbi Yehuda was poor to such a great extent, he had mamish nothing, didn't have what to wear. But the Gemara in Shabbos says that Rabbi Yehuda was appointed by the king. He was called the Hakim of the Yudai. He was the smart one from all the Yidden, and he had got a lot of special coverage from the kings in his time. Very interesting.